edition of the remote Halifax Heritage Lunch. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce today's guest here, which is none other than Richard Marshall, ex-player, ex-coach. Welcome, Richard.
Welcome, gents. Thanks for the invite. I've got nothing else to do on this miserable Friday afternoon.
Yeah. So we briefly had a chat earlier about the format we go through. So I'm going to take you right back to the early days, Richard. Your very first experiences of rugby league. Did you go to watch a game first? Was it playing at junior level? How did you get into the sport?
I got into rugby. I'm based in Warrington, so my first club was Woolston Rovers over in Warrington. Under 15. Oh well, I started playing a little bit. I started to a 15-year-old, 16-year-old. I got pretty decent at it, and there was a few scouts, and then I ended up going playing at St Helens Academy. Nonetheless, so I had a year or two there. And if you remember, Malcolm really was building a real strong squad over at Halifax, and St Helens wanted to keep me, but John Fieldhouse had tipped. He was playing there, and he tipped Malcolm up to watch a game, and he came watching a game, which I played in for St Helens against Leeds, and I remember him, speaking to me after the game, maybe going over to Halifax, which I didn't even have a clue where Halifax was at the time. I know it was over in Yorkshire somewhere on the top of a hill.
Somewhere over the hill.
Yeah, that's it. So, but he sold me the dream of it being glamorous and like there's tropical rainforests and all that over in Halifax. So anyway, to be fair, Malcolm was a fantastic bloke, great coach, and he was a Great Britain coach as well at the time. So I ended up signing over at Halifax. And I had a real good time there. I had nearly 7 years there, as a player. I didn't make my debut until 1995, which is a long time ago now, against Wigan. And I remember in the Wigan team, I looked at so I got changed next to Carl Harrison and Kelvin Skerritt, and we're at Central Park, and I looked at the team sheet, and it was Henry Paul, Vaiga Tuigamala, Andy Farrell, Chris Radlinski, and for want of a pooed my pants, I thought, bloody hell, this is the right team here. Anyway, we got battered, but I made my debut against Wigan at Central Park, and so that's my first moments of rugby league over at Halifax.
Yeah, so because you said you started with Woolston and then you went to St Helens Academy. Was there anybody in the academy team that you subsequently played with at another club?
Yeah, there was a guy called Andy Craig played there, and he went on to play at Swinton, and played with Andy Craig. Kieran Cunningham was just coming through at the time. He was a bit younger than me, but he was in and around the squad, and a lot of players who have drifted in and out of the game. But it was a good time. Even the academy football was a very good standard. And if you remember the A team as well, Halifax had one of the strongest A teams as well. So I probably played a year in the A team. I was playing with the likes of Brendan Hill and Paul Anderson and people like that. Some big players, big boys, and I enjoyed it. I remember, Thursday nights up at Thrumall on a Thursday evening, there'd be, we'd play Bradford or Leeds, and there'd be 2,000 fans there. It'd be crazy. So it was a real good grounding for me as a junior, coming through that development system. And obviously, development's key to my philosophy now as a coach.
Yeah. Because, we'll come on to the coaching side a bit later, but wasn't your dad a bit of a coach of some renown?
No, my uncle was. My uncle coached Wigan. Well, he's a rugby. Well, he's played league and union, but he coached Wigan Rugby Union Vets. Which is like the third team, but he had a good team. He had like an all-stars team because over him, he was a bit of a celebrity over him with my uncle Neil. He'll love me talking about that. And he had a team with he had Fran O'Botica, John Pendlebury, Graham West, Chris Joynt played. So all the lads who'd finished and retired, he ended up. I don't know how he did it. He must have had the gist of the gab. He gives me some coaching points now and again, but they're not. I don't know what he did to get Graham West and and Joe Lydon, I think, even played. He had a wonderful team there, a load of old boys running around, on a Saturday afternoon and playing rugby union for the third team over at Wigan. So that's probably where I get my passion for the game from. My dad was more of a footballer, to be fair, and he liked football, soccer. Big Manchester City fan. Me and my boys are now. But I was always too big and ugly to play soccer at any decent level. I had a big fat ass as well, and it suited rugby better.
So, I mean, obviously, so you're playing at Central Park, but you've already alluded to the fact that you used to play in the A-team games up at Thrumall. How did you find Thrumall as a ground? Obviously, we're quite big in this lounge club about the times up at Thrumall. The slope, did that affect you? The speckies?
It was awesome. It was a great time. Proper rugby league stadium. On top of the hill there, and attached to the cricket club, and it was a real good community. It was right in the heart of the community, wasn't it? One of the first times I drove over there, I thought I got lost and didn't know where I ended up in the farmers' field and this, and then I turned up at this. It's got a bit of an iconic hall, hasn't it? Lovely building, like. I had delusions of grandeur when I signed at Halifax. The
pavilion in the corner there.
Yeah, and then the scratching shed, and they get behind you. The scratching shed, and we go in and have a drink after the game with all the supporters. I've got fond memories of playing at Halifax. I tell you now, I know I speak to players, they didn't like going to Halifax.
No.
And, on a Thursday night or a Friday night or even a Sunday afternoon. And I played a couple of seasons in winter, in the winter. I remember playing an 18 game where there was 6 inches of snow on the pitch. They got an orange ball, and I'm sure Stan Coven Ned would have had spades out, and they cleared the lines off, and we just ended up playing. I'm not sure who we played, but I remember playing on snow, 6 inch snow with a line.
So that'd be August then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good times. Yeah, fond memories of the stadium and all that. All the characters. Stan. What a character Stan was, and Hilda. And I love Hilda to bits. She looked after me when I was playing there and coaching there, and everybody. And Dave Fleming, everyone who was there was really supportive. And there was me and Craig Dean at the time who signed. I don't know if you remember Craig.
Yeah.
Scrum half.
Yeah,
scrum half, small, quick scrum half, dead nipping. Malcolm signed me and Craig together, so we used to travel over together. And he would have had a really good career, just a couple of injuries, and he didn't seem to settle. But it was an awesome time. And Malcolm at the time was really good friends with Bobby Fulton, the Australia coach. And it was a great thing that they did. We did a player exchange, and 2 players came over from Manly. I was 18 at the time, Roger Best and Adam Doyle. And they played in the academy and the 18 for Halifax for sort of 6 months. And it was a reciprocal agreement whereby they'd send 2 players out. And fortunately, Malcolm picked myself and Craig Dean to go and spend 6 months over in Manly. And I probably now, if you pin me down to any point where it made me the rugby player, got me thinking about rugby in a professional environment and probably giving me the kick up the backside and easy, it was going and playing in Australia for 6 months as a junior.
That must have been a huge, as you said, a huge moment in your career. I mean, an honour to be selected to start with, but then going out into basically what was, a full-time environment and learning off people like Bobby Fulton, it must have been huge for you.
Yeah, and it wasn't as prevalent as it is now. I think like Ellery Hanley and a couple of them players went over. But all the top end players, but we were just 2 junior players who they thought that we'd have some talent and we were going to progress in the game and that would help our game. So yeah, I lived with Bob Fulton for the first 2 or 3 weeks and his family. It was brilliant. And then we moved up to on the northern beaches, a place called Avalon, which is on the northern beaches, and played half a season with Manly in the academy. But I told my lads, I've still got my Manly shirt. We got it out the other week. We had to wash it, and because it'd been in the bottom of a drawer. And my lads were like, "Did you play there, Dad?" I said, "Yeah, only in the academy, under 20s it was called, Jersey Flag." But they were like, "Oh, that's brilliant. It was the best time of my life. It was a great time." I actually stayed there a little bit longer. Deanie went back home. He got a bit homesick. So he was from Lee, Deanie. And once you're in Lee, you know, it's like a town of its own, Lee. And he got a bit homesick. And he went after about 4 or 5 months. Anyway, I stayed on. So my Manly contract finished, and I played what they call park football, the equivalent to Siddle or something like that. And I played with a team called Avalon for about another 2 or 3 months. I had a great time there. So he couldn't get me away. I didn't want to come back home. But I did. I came back, and that was, as I say, I signed probably off the back of playing out there. And then I signed full time for Halifax, you know, at 18. Then coming back off the back of that tour, that really spurred me on. So
you've got your first full time contract then, as you say, probably as a result of everything you've learned out there. And you're into a Halifax team. Do you want to just remind us of some of the players that were in the Halifax side at that time?
Well, at that time, it was sort of mid-90s, mid to late 90s. I remember I travelled over with Paul Bishop, Mark Bailey, players like of that ilk, who legends really. You know, Paul Bishop. Yeah. I remember. I'm from Warrington. I remember him playing at Warrington. So I travelled over with them guys, and then you get out of the car. You know, and you've got John Schuster, Asa Mo, Freddie Tuilangi, Paul Moriarty played then. You know, a real mixed bag. Some wonderful overseas players. John Schuster, what a player he was. He was a fantastic player. Played for the All Blacks, and you know, he's a bit of a legend. So to play with people like that, Mike Umanga, and then obviously there's a lot of young lads then at Mick Slicker, Paul Eiton, Craig Dean, Mick Martindale, young players as well coming through. It's a real good mix that Malcolm put together, and then he moved on, and I think Steve Sims took over then. But my best time at Halifax was 1998, where John Pendlebury came in and sort of revolutionised the whole club, in my opinion. The training that we did was brilliant. It was real professional. I think it was the first or second year of Super League, and we were full time, and that was like, you know, Carl Harrison, Kelvin Skerritt, Des Clark. He spoke to Des, I think, didn't you? And Lynch. That team there, Paul Rowley, we had a fantastic team. I loved my time then at Halifax.
And I mean, those were the great players. The characters there. I mean, I know you've talked about the what I call off-team characters like your Stan and your Phil Cobb and Hilda, but were the real characters in the team? Who were the lads who you'd have to keep an eye on, say, for the wind-ups? Yeah,
there was a lot of good characters. Mark Perrott, Pez, was a good friend. He took us around Halifax on a Sunday night after the games. Me and my mate Andy James, who played, we travelled from Warrington. We used to stay over at Pez's house and go around Halifax, the Acker, and all the nightclubs and that. So we had a good time there. Michael Jackson and Paul Rowley, probably two of the fittest players I've played with. We were doing a hill session at Shibden one year, probably pre-season, about 96, something like that. And I was fresh, a young player, and we're running up these hills, and they're getting really chickens. It's tough. When I was coaching Halifax, I took my team there. It's a really good fitness session. And Michael Jackson was one of the fittest blokes on the team. He was struggling, and he ended up throwing up. And I hope you listen to go with this. He ended up throwing up because he was that exhausted. And if you remember a big bloke called Paul Round, called him Roundy.
Oh yeah. A good lad.
Yeah, he was a character. Well, he bent down. He started to munch on this pieces of sick on the hill. He said, "If that's healthy enough for Michael Jackson, it's healthy enough for me." And I would never. To this day, I was thinking, "Oh my God, what?" Yeah. It's healthy enough for him. It's healthy enough for me.
Oh dear.
Crazy time. Kelvin Skerritt as well. Kelvin Skerritt, what a character Kelvin was. Kelvin used to come in the Jeep. he had a big Jeep and all, you know, like an 18 wagon, and he'd roll up and you could hear this Jeep coming. He'd jump out of his car, he'd train, and then he'd be off. You know, big killer. And I think he had a pub at the time as well. So, but he was they're all characters, some really good players in that team.
And who were the players that you played against? I mean, I know you went through that Wigan team, but who were the other players that stood out that you played against that you'd think in the dressing room before the game, right, well, we've got his work cut out today?
We, I think at the time, Bradford were the best team, Bradford Bulls. They had, Brian Noble coached them, and I think his philosophy was, we're just going to bully teams. We're going to be the biggest team on the park from winger. They had like two wingers, you know, Vinacolo and Jonathan Scales, Vicona. So they had like the wingers were bigger than front rowers. And then in the middle of the field, you had like Joe Vergana, Brian McDermott, James Lowe. So I remember having some real good battles with Bradford, Halifax Bradford. You know, what a rivalry that is and still is. So that was a real testing time because Bradford were the best team. You know, they were getting to Super League finals and winning grand finals and Challenge Cups. And you know, we weren't quite as good. We weren't, but we used to raise our game against the Bulls. We used to have some really good ding-dong battles with them. And Leeds, you know, Leeds had a fantastic team as well at the time. But I remember 1998, we beat them 42-0. I don't think they'd ever been nilled before. We absolutely battered them a week.
Yeah.
It was a week or 2 weeks before we played them, and they beat us in the semi-finals, you know, the playoffs. But we had some good battles against Leeds and Bradford. The Wigan team as well, just when I was coming through, was the all-conquering Wigan team of the early 90s. You know, what a team that was. Fantastic team.
And for your playing career, moving on after Halifax anywhere?
Well, yeah, we unfortunately, you know, we didn't kick on from 98. 99 was a tough year. We lost quite a lot of money as a club, and I remember, you know, all our best players had to go. I went, but I wasn't one of the best players.
Such modesty.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I ended up signing for Huddersfield and Sheffield merged, right? So they had two teams, and I ended up signing John Keir. He was a big fan, and he used to speak to me quite a bit. And he took over as the Huddersfield Sheffield coach, and he was the England coach at the time. And he's, you know, and there was me. Gavin Clinch actually signed there as well after Wigan. He went there. He signed about 3 or 4 players outside of the 2 squads, and I was one of them. So I went over to Huddersfield, played there, and did okay over there, to be fair. But John was a coach of England. He promised me that I'd be playing for England, but I never did. So I always mention that when I see him. He said, "If you time to get him." I played for Ireland. I had a couple of games for Ireland. You know, when all the good players pulled out, like Brian Carney and Barry McDermott, and so I had a couple of games for Ireland that I'm proud about.
Okay, I'm going to say international football. Don't decry.
No, yeah, exactly, and we had a good time there as well. But so Huddersfield, but that was a tough. It never really worked with Huddersfield, Sheffield, the merger. And after a couple of years, I went down to London, played at London Broncos. I had a good time down in London. Had 3 years down there. Just got married with Kath, my wife, and we didn't have any children. We lived in London, big city, and we loved it. It was good. We had a good team there. Probably some of the best individual players I'd ever played with. The likes of Jim Dimmock, Richie Barnett, the Kiwi fullback. Jason Etherington, what a tough player he was. He was a hooker, state of origin hooker, played for Queensland. You know, and I was packing down with him. And again, we had a good mix of English blokes there: Francis Stevenson, Rob Jackson, Rob Purden, Paul Sykes. Some good players. So that was a good time down in London.
I'm sorry. I thought Malcolm was coming in there.
I was just going to say, if you know, I wrote down here and I alluded to a Zoom early this morning where it was Peter Rowe. We touched on coaching, players to coaching. And the spread of the coaches that you'll have played under, and then sit alongside of as you learn as an assistant coach. It's picking up what you need to know for that day, that time when you ultimately get your own spot. And how much of that did you bring forward to your Halifax position?
Yeah, like real good coaches. Obviously, Malcolm really was a legend, and Simon. But I was a bit too young at the time. John Pendlebury had a real influence over me. As I said, he revolutionised a lot of what we did in training. I think just the timing for John was wrong. Like he was sort of he was ahead of his game really. He was a really good forward thinker, and we did some really good games and conditioning games that we all do now that he brought in at the time. And then probably Tony Smith going back to the Huddersfield, John Keir went and Tony Smith came in. It was his first coaching gig, and I remember we lost third. We weren't a great team. We lost 12 or 30 games on the bounce. And for a coach like Tony Smith, to come from Australia, and it was a tough environment. I learned a lot there as a player, and I'm sure he learned a lot there as a coach. And when I worked with him like 10 years afterwards. I was his assistant at Warrington, and we always talked about that time at Huddersfield, and he said it was the best thing I ever did was going coaching, in that team, because that's where you earn your stripes. It's all right coaching winning teams, group winning grand finals every year. Yeah. It's when you're at the foot of the table. There wasn't relegation at the time, so well there was, but the first 2 years they were exempt Huddersfield because they were a new team in effect. But the last year we got relegated, and that's when I left to London. He always told me that I got relegated. That was one of his things. He got me to start. But I learned a lot of Tony Smith as a player there. Tony Ray down in London, he was a good coach. It's you pick all up off lots of people. Lots of people have an influence over you.
Mm-hmm. Is it something that you always knew you were going to do, going to coaching, or was it as you got towards the end of your career you developed it, or was it something that you've always had an eye on?
So I sort of dropped down. I ended up playing at Leigh, and then my last club was Swinton in the lower leagues, in the Championship. So I was a part-time player in the Championship. I was doing a teaching degree. I was going to be a teacher. I thought that was a natural progression, or some kind of development role at a club. I was doing a little bit of work for the rugby union as well. I did. So I liked teaching. I liked, I was always never afraid to speak my mind. In team meetings, I wasn't the most vocal on the pitch, but all the most intellectual in terms of rugby brains. But at the same time, I was always keen to learn and keen to listen. I think that's the important thing, that you listen. So what happened at Swinton was I broke my arm, played it against Dewsbury, and remember Frank Watine, who played for Halifax. I swung my arm, and he's got a big head as Frank, and my arm basically smashed into pieces. It wasn't great tackle technique. If I'm swinging my arm at Frank Watine's head, there's something wrong. But I broke my arm, and then I ended up having an operation, and I ended up coaching Swinton because I obviously wasn't playing. Paul Kidd was the head coach at the time. He said, "Come and do some coaching with me." So that's really how I started to coach, and I really enjoyed it. And we did okay. I probably did better as a coach than I did as a player, really. But I just had a real good affectionate with the players, and we got to a grand final. We got beat by Sheffield, but we got the team to the grand final. So that was me leading to coaching, really. But I was at a crossroads whether I was going to be a teacher or a coach. That was where I think
you made the right decision.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, well, I got an opportunity to coach the academy at Warrington. So after the Swinton, Gary Chambers was an assistant at Warrington with Paul Cullen, and I know Gary through playing, and he said, "There's a job here, academy coach, part-time." So I went for the job, and I got that. And that was just part-time, 3-4 evenings a week, but in a good club, Warrington well, they weren't the Warrington that they are now, but Paul Cullen was there and he was doing a good job with them. And then so I ended up coaching the academy there at Warrington for a couple of years. Paul left. Tony Smith came in. So all the pieces, the jigsaw sort of fitted.
Coming together, yeah.
Yeah, because I played with Tony, he trusted me, and he actually offered me a full-time assistant's job with him. And I was at Warrington then as an assistant for 6 years, which is quite a long time. And we had a really good time. I learned a lot in that 6 years. With Lee Breers, Matt King, Michael Monaghan, some really good players. Grixie played in that team, Simon Grix.
Yeah.
So it was a real good time for Warrington. The only thing we didn't win was a grand final, but pretty much won quite a lot.
Do you feel that my feeling as well, coaching it's evolved. That's the word I'm looking forward to. Probably back in the 50s, 60s, it was a tub thumping. It was strong characters, noisy characters. Your Bamford to blast somebody off or whatever. And I saw us, in my view, change to trying to get into the guys' heads, a different approach, a softer approach verbally, but getting over statistics came in more and more, didn't it? And if you could prove to the player that X, Y, Z wasn't being done, if you do it this way, it probably happened. Do you feel did you feel that evolution over, say, a 10 or 15 year period?
Yeah, the game's moved on, and I think as a coach, you've got to get the balance right. You can't have there's two camps, and there's the objective, the statistics, the stats. This is what happens. These are facts, and then there's a subjective coach, who has a feel for things. And I think you've got to get the both right. You've got to, because you can't hide away from facts. You made this many tackles, you missed this many, and you ran this many. That's fact. That's what you did in the game. Yeah. However, facts can lie. You can go, what? But your little bits of your effort, and I could see you running off the ball, and I could. So that's the bit that you've got to coach. You've got to understand when to use the stats and when to use your intuition. I think that's the skill. But when you're an assistant, and I'm an assistant now at St Helens, a wonderful club. It's different to being a head coach. That's the thing for me. Being an assistant, you're in a supporting role, as Simon and Scott were when I was there, and Marlon Billy before that. You're a supporter, and you listen and you challenge, and you make sure that you've got the back of the head coach. You're listening, but you don't want a yes man. And Scott and Simon weren't. Marlon, they were great assistants. They challenge, and what about this, Rich? And as I said to you before at the start, I think you've got to be able to listen. The best coaches listen. They don't always follow the advice, but they've got to take it on board. And I think, that's something that I feel I'm pretty good at.
Yeah, because in days gone by, as Malcolm was alluding to, famous name players would often get big coaching roles and they'd just be parachuted in. But nowadays, in the Super League and the RFL, there are minimum standards before you become a professional coach. You've got to go through the courses and get your badges, etc. Do you think that's helped with this development as well?
Yeah.
That it isn't just plonk the big name in?
But again, you've got to have some credibility. Getting qualifications gives you the credibility. You've got, I've done my level 3. I'm doing I'm doing a master's in elite coaching practice at the moment. So, but that, I've also, on the other side, I've worked with some academics who are like professors.
Yeah.
Can't deliver their message. They can't get all that information that's in their head across to the players, so it's lost. But at the same time, you have got to have a certain amount of credibility. Some players back in the day would be given a badge or a title or a coach. But now, there is minimum standards. You have to have so many level 3 coaches at your club, and that's good. The coach education is really important. And I think it can be improved at the Rugby League. I did a bit of work for the Rugby Union. Their coach education. They've got a real good template there as well. I'm not saying the coaches are any better, not necessarily. The coaches in Rugby League are fantastic, but yeah, it's getting that balance. It's having a balance of using the data, then having that intuition, I think that's the key.
Yeah. Can I give you a little story on that, and then tell me if you've experienced this as well? And it's a bit third hand from when my dad was reserve coach, sport coach to Albert Fernie, I think it was, at Bradford Northern, as they were. And it was a team with Ellery Hanley and one or two others back. So that's how far we're going back. And coach was giving this chat in there, and everybody's nodding and like this, that. And it was, right, lads, up there and at 'em. And this lad on wing was still going, and then took his earphones out with his music and said, "Are we out?" And and I'm sure there must be a roll of the eyes and exasperation. I'm sure you've probably come across something like that.
Yeah. James Saltonstall at Halifax. God love him. I had Salty at Warrington, so the young kid, and he signed at Warrington early. He was away. Salty would be away with the fairies, half the time. But then put a shirt on, and you know what? He'd wear his heart on his sleeve, and he'd have a real good go. So I love coaching them different characters as well. You don't want everyone saying the same thing, being dead boring, robots. You need characters. I had some run-ins with him as well. He did some things off the field that I wasn't too happy about, and I'll not mention any of them. But at the same time, he was a good lad, and he's an Halifax lad. But yeah, so again, but as a coach, you've got to be you've got to read players' body languages all the time. Are they listening? Do they look nervous? Are they edgy? Are they overexcited? And your job as a coach is to do one or two things: is assess, find out where they're at, and then help them. Give them the information that they need. So that was always my approach. And I'd walk in on game day. Whoever we were playing Toulouse to get in the top four, or if we were playing Batley or Swinton or wherever, and and I go in there and I get a feel for the dressing room, and you've got people like Scott Morrell in there, good characters, there'd be a little bit of banter and laughing, but I tell you what, as soon as the whistle goes and you're 10 minutes before you're on, you are switched on. These lads are professional, and that's no different at anywhere like St Helens or Warrington. These lads are all human beings, they're all lads. But your job as a coach is to make sure that doesn't go over the top, or just get a feel for it. And sometimes you have to G them up. Come on, lads, we've got a game here in 10 minutes. Let's get going. What's up here?
Yeah, because as you say, you've been an assistant coach at Warrington, at St Helens, at two big name Super League clubs, but your role as head coach at Halifax, it's going to be different in two aspects. First of all, you're in charge. You're the man who, at the end of the day, says yes or no. But you've got a group of players, a lot of whom are part-time, a lot of whom are doing jobs during the week as well. First question is, A, that must be very different, and B, is your aim at some point to be number one at a Super League club? If you do the first bit first about Halifax. Well,
the first bit is the important bit for me. Is the bit where whether it's I think my development path has been pretty good, and it's a good template to go down. Being an assistant at a good club, a strong club, and then go be at a head coach, maybe at the league below, to learn your trade. Make some mistakes. And then ideally, I'd have been I'd either stayed at Halifax or I'd have got obviously I want a Super League head coach's job at some point. But I'm learning in different ways now, and it is important. But Halifax was a different challenge. It was they were part time. I was fully involved in the club, and probably too much when I look back now. I was involved in lots of things: the reserve grade, the finances off the field, on the field, what music we were going to come out to. There's all sorts of things that I probably, on reflection, probably needed to leave and just concentrate on the rugby. But everything is interlinked, and everything has a knock-on effect. If you don't get the finances right, then you can't sign the players that you want. So, we had some challenges there, but at the end of the day, I learned a great deal being head coach. Taking the bibs home and washing them, and then picking the team and ringing players up, and it was awesome. It was a really good grounding. I would always, if I speak to any coaches now, it's the best way to do it. Don't get caught up in just want to be the head coach in Super. be the best assistant you can be, then be the best head coach you can be, and then be the, you know, whatever it is, and the opportunities will then take care of themselves. So I had nearly 5 good years at Halifax, which is quite a long time for any coach. And I felt, we did a good job there and left a bit of a legacy, in terms of with the club. But again, it was time for me to move on at the end. It was time for me to leave and do something different.
Highlight at Halifax? Was there something that really stands out?
There's many, because we had such a good team. The games where we had to get in the top 4 for a club like Halifax, and the finances that came were very pressurised, but also very exciting. We made it 3 out of the 4 years. So Toulouse away, we managed to win.
Yes.
We had to beat.
Happy memories of that. I have to say, very happy memories.
And all the players talk about that, because we had a good drink with the fans after. We had a great time, and we had to win that game, or else we were out. Mm-hmm. And then we ended up, winning the next couple of games and getting in there. My first year, I think we had to go to Doncaster. We'd done all right, but my first year, I think we just had to win by so many points to beat Doncaster, who were bottom of the league at the time. We ended up putting 40, 50 points past them and blowing it away. And I remember driving home feeling really, really pleased and energised about this team. We won 10 or 11 games on the bounce. So within the first year I was there, we were in the top 4. We'd done really well. Hull KR away, we had to beat them to get in the top 4. Sorry, no, not away. It was at home. It was the last game of the season at home. We had to beat them. And we battered them. We did a real good job, and then we had to beat. My last year was Rochdale. We had to beat Rochdale, but again we had to beat Toulouse at home the week before that. And Shane Grady scored a try that basically, it did the job for us. Outside of that, because I'm from Warrington, and I coached at Warrington. We played Warrington in the Middle 8s. Do you remember?
Yes.
We went over to Warrington. So, and in the week,
a bit of a dig, I seem to remember. Didn't the young winger go over twice?
Well, Chester Butler, wasn't it?
Chester.
We had a great team at the time. We do real well, and there's a bit of a story with young Chester. The week before, I had to convince him to carry on playing rugby. He came to me and he said, he wasn't getting in at the time. And he said, I think I'm going to leave. I want to go back to Siddle, and I don't know if I want to be a professional anymore. I'm not getting in. And have you got any advice? And I said, well, listen, just have a couple of weeks here. Give it a couple of weeks. You will get an opportunity at some point, and when you get it, you'll never look back. And I didn't know this at the time. This is probably a week or 2 weeks before Warrington. So James Woodburn, Chester was, I think he might have been on the bench, or anyway, he was in the 17 for the Warrington game. James Woodburn got an injury, and he if you remember, Chester went on the wing and he had a real pivotal game, as you say. He scored 2 tries. He got man of the match on Sky, and I remember speaking to him afterwards, going, "You made a good decision a couple of weeks ago, just sitting out." But again, these young lads, he wanted to play with his mates, and he wasn't enjoying it. He wasn't getting in. And being a bit selfish, I knew he was a good player, and I said, "Listen, just stick it out. You might get an opportunity." Anyway, 2 weeks later, he's man of the match on Sky, and he's got a career now. He's full time. So that was a real highlight. Also, against Tony Smith, one of my mentors. We didn't get disgraced. We were actually winning with 60 minutes to go. If you remember, Grixie put a nice kick in for Chester. He scored. Salty put a pass over. Again, he was playing fullback for Chester. He scored another try, and we weren't far off. And then we just couldn't sustain 60 minutes against full-time Warrington at home, and they shouldn't have been in the bottom 4, really, if we're being honest. So that was a real. I remember going out round Warrington afterwards for a meal, and all the Warrington fans were coming up to me, and they were giving it me at the same time. They were saying, "Your team did well. You should be proud of that Halifax team. You've got some really good players there," and they had a real good dig. So that was exciting. That was a good time.
And I suppose if we go back to the Challenge Cup semi-final, where you've not been at St Helens long, and Halifax playing the semi-final, and they put up a real good show for themselves. Once again, they give it a real big dig. That must have brought you a little bit of pride as well, because a lot of that team were there because of what you've done at the club over the 5 years.
Yeah, that was a surreal, very emotional time. Really, it was weird. So I played. I think we'd beat Hunslet, London, and somebody else, and then I left, and they beat Bradford in the quarter, which was a great game. I watched that on TV. And I keep in touch with all the lads now. I text Crixie after the game, brilliant. And I didn't know. Then we watched the draw, and I was at St Helens, and we drew Halifax. So I'm going to me and Kath, we're laughing, and we're going to have a great day. And it was good that in Halifax thoroughly deserved to be in the semi-final. But it was always going to be a big ask for a championship team to beat a team like St Helens. But I spoke to Bobby Fairbank and Ed Barber before the game, and they were. We're not going to go easy on you today, Rich. We're going to go full tilt for this. We want to get to the final. We had a good laugh, and they were great, in good spirits. And I remember walking in at half time, and there was only I think there was a try in it, and they were like, they walked past me salty. You better watch out, Marshy. Hey, you might be kicking you out of the cup. So, but that was great. And at the end of the game, I went and shook all the players' hands, and I walked over to the fans, and that was an emotional time. Yeah, it wasn't my team, but it was a lot of players there. I'd certainly had an influence on, and then me as well. They made me the coach that I am today. I've got a lot of thanks for them and that team and the supporters. And I went over and thanked all them, and it was really good. It was a great day for both clubs. Yeah, unfortunately we couldn't win the final, or could we, against Warrington?
No, but you got that. I mean, the way I read it was it's a bit like the old cliche in that semi-final was actually Halifax's final, if you like. It was going on a big day to a neutral ground, playing at Bolton. So I can understand why you got a certain amount of pride from it as well. And certainly I think the fans appreciated what you did, as was shown by the ovation you got when you went across at the end of the game.
Yeah, that was lovely. I've got a lot of memories, a lot of good friends there. And then shortly after that, the Halifax lads invited me into the dressing room. I sat down and had a beer with them, which I'll tell you now, I'd never have done in the 5 years that I was there. I would never have sat down and had a beer with them, but because I was relaxed, and we had a beer together, and it was good, and I went round and thanked the players, and wished them all the best for the rest of the year. Yeah, and like you say, it was a really good day out for the fans, for Halifax and Grixie and the coaching staff there. A wonderful day, and just seems like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it? Just thinking about it. What was it? It was probably this time last year, wasn't it? It was around this time, and now it's weird.
Yeah, I suppose.
Strange times. How are you keeping yourself busy in lockdown? I'll come back to you in a minute, Malk.
Yeah, no worries.
How do you keep yourself busy in lockdown then, Richard? Is the family on keeping you on your toes?
Yeah, I've got two boys. So we've got a bit of a gym here. We're doing a bit of a training program, and we train together and homeschooling. And we have our weekly meetings with the Saints staff, so we don't feel isolated. We'll be making contacts. I'll be ringing 10 of the players this week. I rang 10. We're always in contact with the rest of the players and staff. I'm doing this masters in elite coaching practice, so I've got a couple of assignments to do. I want to get that boxed off. But it's not like I'm 30 years I've been involved on a field running around with a whistle around my neck. Either playing or coaching, and it is different. It's frustrating, but I've enjoyed it as well. I've done lots of jobs. I've done my drive. I'm going to build a pizza oven. I'm doing all sorts. If the coaching went, I'll be the handyman round Warrington. I'll get myself a white van, and I'd absolutely split.
Sorry, Malcolm, I cut across you earlier.
All right, no. I just thought before we probably wind up shortly, but there were two sort of up-to-date questions I was going to ask. We're seeing in Australia on two rule changes that may or may not come into our game, and one is the extended tackles from an infringement around the play of the ball. I think there's a bit of a bell goes. There's a bit to let everybody know that's what it is. I don't know. So hold that for a moment. How do you see that panning out? Should it happen? Captain's call. Personally, I think they conflict each other in slow, one quickening up the game and one slowing it down. But what's your thoughts on possibly those being introduced into our game?
Anything that speeds up the game, in my opinion, is good. I used to get frustrated when I play against teams who slow it down and go down at dropouts and scrums, kick the ball over the sideline and slow. So anything that speeds the game up makes it more entertaining. I'm fully behind. So yes, 6 again, real. I'm happy to do that. And the captain's call. I don't mind it because referees don't always get it right. And I'm watching quite a lot of NRL at the minute, and the players have a feel on the field for what's happened. So let them judge it until they get it wrong. I don't mind that either. Mm-hmm. It'd be good if we come up with some rules, I want it, and then the Australian guys copy those.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it's due to the virus out there or not. But one thing I do like is that they've only got one referee on the field, because in our game particularly, if you end up with 2 referees refereeing Super League games, that's a whole set of referees that can't do championship games. So they're pulling from Division 1. So I'm pleased to see that there's only the one referee. But Captain's Challenge, not all games are videoed over here, are they?
No, they're not. So that you'd only get that on a televised game, I'm sure. We do take a copy quite a lot from the game in Australia. They move the scrums as well, don't they? You can put a scrum anywhere on the field.
Yes, of course, yeah.
Most of them going for in the middle, trying to get that 3-on-3 split and then create an extra number. Again, but then you've got to think about the next play after that as well. There's quite a bit more to it. But anything that makes the game more glamorous, sexy, I think, and quicker is better. The 2 referees, I would never have gone for that. We don't need one, and the game's quicker and better in Australia now with 1.
I would agree.
Okay.
Right. Well, have you another question, Malcolm?
No, I'm fine. It's been great. It's been a great conversation.
It has. Well,
thank you,
know, once again, Richard, a huge thank you for giving up your time for us. It is appreciated. And I'm sure that there'll be a lot of interested people who will be watching this on the website when we get it out there. We'll let you know when it's on as well, Richard. But once again, on behalf of the Heritage Lunch Club, thank you very much.
No, that's great. You do a great job. So thanks for that, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Whenever we get going again.
Whenever. Cheers. Thank you.
Take care. All the best. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers. Thank you, Richard.
Yeah. Bye for now.